Welcome to today's episode of Two Pigs in a Pod, a podcast for the people of Glazing by the people of Glazing. I'm George Lewis, editor at the People in Glazing Society, or more commonly known as PIGs, and I'm your host. Our guests today are Shauna Brett and the Rising Star Award winner at this year's GGP Installer Awards, Lee Brett. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Hi, thanks for having us.
So, as we always do with our podcast, we always start off with letting our guests introduce themselves, even though I have to give you a little introduction. But yeah, can you explain who you both are and what you do within our wonderful industry?
Of course. So my name's Shauna. We're both working for Emerald Windows and Doors. I am currently a manager, so my role entails a bit of everything, heavily related to marketing.
Nice. Lee?
Yeah, so I've been in the company for about 3 years now. In my first 2 years, I was in sort of a more junior role where I was balancing college studies. But over the past 10 months, I've been working as a multi-channel marketing apprentice. So I've been handling pretty much all assets of marketing. So that's anywhere from social media, helping to create stuff on a website, and much more.
Nice. And more importantly for this podcast, which you always ask, why? Why did you get into our industry?
So for me, I mean, obviously it's a family-run business. It's actually our parents who started and obviously still run Emerald. So for me, it was always going to be quite likely that it was something I would go into. At what capacity, I didn't know at the time. So I first started out just doing basic admin things, filing, then started to learn to answer the phone. And over the course of this, what will be now my 8th year this year, I've kind of had different roles throughout the time. And like I said, now I'm there as a manager. But I think it always interested me where it's a real investment in our family, and I would always see how hard my mum and dad would work, particularly my dad going out and doing absolutely everything. So that always really inspired me, and it's just something that I wanted to get stuck into. So for me, it was always going to be, like I said, something I would do.
Lee, did you do the same? You expected to follow sort of into the family business as well, or did you sort of get drawn into it from your sister?
Well, before I really knew anything about it, I initially, growing up, I always said no, never, not for me. But it was sort of an opportunity where, like I said, I was in college. I needed a part-time job
Yeah.
to get some money. And then, so like Shauna did, I was sort of an admin with files, so creating systems to instantly organize files, all that sort of stuff. But then after college, I was looking for an apprenticeship, and Shauna basically said to me, would you like to try and do an apprenticeship at Emerald? So initially I was doing it and I wasn't too sure, but over time I've sort of grown to really get invested into the company.
Nice. And what did you know, obviously, from your mum and dad, obviously doing the business day in, day out, but what did you know about the sector in general before you started?
So before we started, it was obviously I've heard about it quite a lot growing up with mum and dad, but obviously they would never directly explain every single part of the business to me because I was a child. But that sort of caused my sort of child brain to sort of fill in the gaps. So, for example, one of our big suppliers I thought was just one person.
Yeah.
They would talk about this person, I'd be like, and then not only recently, sorry, but when I properly joined the company, I realized
it's bigger than that.
Yeah, not just one man band like I thought it was.
Yeah. And what chose you to go into marketing to do an apprenticeship? You know, what, not everyone wants to do that kind of role, but what enticed you to you know, when Shauna said to do that apprenticeship, you thought, yeah, actually, that sounds interesting.
Well, growing up around technology, I sort of had a base understanding of what marketing was. I knew it was, sort of advertising online. So, and as pretty much everybody my age, constantly on the phone. So I'm quite up to date with things like social media, and I sort of understand how those platforms work. So when Shauna said to me, "Oh, would you like to give this a go?" Yeah, pretty much. It was just pretty much instant yes. And before I knew it, I was looking up Google courses on how to market.
Yeah, and when you got into it, but this might be a question for both of you, but when you started doing marketing within the glazing sector, what was your sort of first impressions? Do you think it was better than you thought it was, worse than what you thought it was, like in terms of generally, not just at Emerald?
I'd say a bit of both. I think it definitely, where it was for me, it was my first experience in marketing fully. Obviously, like Lee said, growing up in technology and where we're younger, we are very used to being advertised to. But in this industry, I think I didn't realize how much there is that you can kind of go into, from blogs on the website through to obviously social media. So yeah, I think it was all very new to me, and it was fun to get kind of stuck in and doing sort of different things. Like I said, even with the blogs, I um, really liked English growing up. I liked reading and writing, so it kind of fell quite nicely for me because I could get stuck in that way with writing pieces and then watching them go onto the website and it really improve our SEO, and seeing some blogs that you've actually written yourself rank really well was really rewarding. So I think there's a lot of different elements to it, and it's been fun kind of, yeah, learning all of that.
Yeah, and do you think your skills, both of you working together now, have sort of complemented each other, where you're sort of not from but from slightly different generations in terms of growing up slightly, away from each other? But do you think that your skills actually complement each other in terms of bringing it to the business?
Yeah, definitely. I think Lee has brought a really fresh perspective and a new set of skills. So, for example, like I said, I think I'm quite strong with writing and things like that. But with Lee, he is very techie. There's a lot of things that he's done, even in the short time that he's been doing the role, where I kind of think to myself, wow, that's just fab. Like, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't know where to start with that. And he does it quite quickly, has answers to things that didn't even know I needed to question. But yeah, absolutely. And he's with graphics and anything like that he's really skilled on.
Yeah, and Lee, do you think you're learning off of Shauna from the other way around?
Yeah, I mean, especially in terms of just working there, there's a lot of things that I needed to be told to me, like sort of a brand tone and
Yeah,
things like that. But apart from that, sort of general skills and also skills I use in my sort of day-to-day working life. So what I mean is things just like confidence. Obviously, like I said, I'm not that much of a social person, but being able to sort of have Shauna there and have these people around me, they've
yeah,
sort of taught me to how to properly communicate in this environment. And then also in my day-to-day work, there have been loads of different things. I sort of
yeah.
struggle to get into specifics, but just things that I use day to day and
Nice.
that have led me to the path I've gone down.
Nice. And well, it's obviously working because, as I mentioned in my introduction, you're now an award-winning, person. And so, how did it feel to firstly, obviously, to be nominated for the award and then to win it?
Yeah, so when it was me, Shauna, and our dad Martin that went to the award, and when we got there in the hall, it was obviously filled with. I was obviously the youngest person there, which was a little bit scary. But another thing was that my finalists for the award, who I was competing against, they were also older than me and probably more experienced than I was. So I didn't think I was going to do it. I didn't think that I was going to win. But when they announced my name, I was just sort of didn't really didn't really believe it. But after a while, it probably sunk in. Then I was just sort of like really proud of what I've done and sort of felt really lucky to be in the position I'm in.
Nice. And how did you celebrate as a family? Obviously a family-run business, and you win an award. How did you celebrate?
So on that night, where, like I said, it was just Shauna, me, and my dad, we went out to a nice meal there. Our supply Comptor treated us to, and then we went to a pub where there was loads and loads of other people from our industry.
Yeah.
And we had a nice few drinks, and I answered a few questions that some people had for me. And obviously, when we got home, there was lots of hugs from mum, and yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah, very proud all around.
Yeah, I bet. And do you feel like the pressure's a bit on now? You know, when in it's so early in your career. You know, you said you were the youngest there just for the Rising Star Award, and obviously, you know, the main awards. There's people that have been in the industry, you know, much longer. You feel, or have you got that sort of you want to try and win more awards now as both an individual and as a company?
Yeah, so we've been pushing more recently than I think ever in the company for these awards. So we put ourselves forward for a lot, and we were quite lucky to be nominated for quite a few at the moment. And we've won some more in the past. But in terms of individual, it would be very interesting to put myself forward and maybe say other people on the team to put themselves forward, because I think it is a good accreditation for us to sort of show, and like another way to say to our customers and to other people in the industry, when we say we have an exceptional service, we really mean it, and things like that. But yeah, we've been really pushing for it as of recently.
Yeah, and do you think that's a good thing that you are so young in your career, and you're it might entice sort of new people into our industry, as you probably will know, and we'll come on to in a minute about sort of getting people into our industry. Do you feel like you can be a sort of an example of we're in this industry as sort of the next generation, the new generation, like we can both show you what this industry is all about?
Well, yeah, I'd like to think that. I'd like to think that people can sort of see our sort of cases and see that it's not all sort of, you know, it's not completely stuck in its ways. You know, people, there are ways to do it. Obviously, there's the past, the way that people have done it before, and that was obviously great. But all things change, and you can come into this industry, and it doesn't have to be slow. It doesn't have to be. You can really make it fun, and you can be successful in that way.
Nice. And Sean, I guess discussion, is quite aptly after what they just said. As being a woman in this industry, as you know, it's quite a male dominated industry. Like, how does it feel to be in a male dominated industry? And do you think you see yourself as a sort of a role model for potentially more women enter the industry in the future?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it is heavily male dominated, which can be quite daunting. Going into rooms where it's mainly filled with men, and trying to feel like you're being taken seriously.
Yeah.
I think it can be hard, but I think I have seen an improvement sort of over the years that I've been there. Um, and I would definitely urge like females, not just in this industry, but sort of trades in general. You can kind of see that it's all male dominated.
Mm.
I would definitely encourage females to get involved. Don't be sort of worried or you know having sort of a lot of male colleagues.
Yeah.
Mostly everyone is very nice. But yeah, it's just finding that balance, I think, and just being taken seriously. But yeah, I think as long as you know that you've got the right skills and you can back yourself, that's the main thing. You need to be confident in yourself. Otherwise, people start to doubt you. So people do latch on to if you kind of seem a little bit uncertain. So I think that's probably the key thing. Just finding your confidence. And it kind of serves us well because our customers every day I think having that diversity is important for them as well,
Mm.
and it shows that we're modern and forward thinking, inclusive. So it's nice for them to be able to deal with a male and a female.
Yeah, nice. And speaking of, modern thinking, marketing within our industry is not always what everyone goes down. As I can say for myself, it's not always what we want to do in life yet. But what are you sort of bringing, new things that you're bringing to Emerald and to the glazing sector in general that you think you can really sort of shout about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I definitely agree. I think like it can kind of seem a little bit boring, or the industry as a whole, for people who haven't been in it, or just sort of from an outsider's perspective. But I don't think that's the case. I think that is the case if you have, you're quite close-minded, or you kind of haven't seen the sort of opportunities that there are from being a bit more modern. I think there definitely is different paths you can go down to really differentiate your business, because it's very competitive, as we all know. There's in obviously we're from Swindon, Wiltshire, so in Swindon alone there are many different companies. So what's important is doing something a bit different, and also appealing to the next generation of people who are going to be having um, home renovations and everything like that. I think Lee has made an excellent effort of um, using modern ways, which I think he'll touch on, which has really made us a little bit different. Serves as a bit of a talking point as well, I think, between people, which is obviously what you want.
No.
Yeah, so what I think Sean's trying to indicate to you there is the sort of bringing
Yeah.
more fun into marketing. I've over the past year we've created a TikTok page, which I know it's sort of for some people in the industry that's sort of hard to believe. It's sort of how is that really relevant and
Yeah.
things like that. But all it really is we post comedy sketches, office humor videos,
Mm.
and trend related content, but we tie it all back to Emerald.
Yeah.
So all our sketches will be maybe about one of our products, or maybe we adapt a trend to us. So I think recently we did one where it was about our new gilets. It was just it's all so pretty much every picture had our name in it and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of makes our team a bit more
Yeah.
personable,
Yeah,
because we've seen them doing a silly dance on TikTok or something like that. And yeah, it's just great fun for everybody involved, really. It's sort of, in a way, it's sort of like a team building exercise as well,
Yeah.
if you want to look at it that way, because everybody's involved in it. And some people might think, oh, I really don't want to do this, but then everybody's sort of already.
Everyone gets stuck in.
Yeah.
I mean, as we can see, we're doing it on podcast now. It's the different sort of routes that we're that's happening in our industry. That I think are important, and sort of new ideas. Like I think Shauna said earlier, you can't be stuck in your ways for forever, and some things like that. They might work, they might not work, but until you try them, you don't know how they're going to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for those that want to follow your TikTok page, how do we find you?
I think you just search up Emerald Windows and Doors. We managed to get that. That wasn't already open, luckily. So,
And is there been any projects, or campaigns that you've worked on so far for both of you that have sort of really stood out? I mean, obviously an award win is fantastic, but is there any projects that you've worked on or had help in that's been memorable so far?
yeah, so for myself, there's sort of one big project that sort of springs to mind. That was near Christmas time, December last year. I think I was in the marketing role for about 6 months at this point. We decided to do a Christmas giveaway of 2 composite doors, and that was just really well executed. There was so many different touch points that we did. So, I had created all these different graphics for like little reminders, and we ended up getting hundreds of entrants, which was just sort of a proud moment to see it like really pay off, and sort of really bring people that are just sort of interested in our products to sort of have that desire. Oh, no, now that I didn't win that, I want.
Realizing you really want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But apart from that, only other thing is sort of more recent. On the run up to the awards, the GGP Awards, I did put out a blog, which I'm quite proud to say was ranked quite highly, which was nice because Blog and writing is something that I'm sort of more new to. I've never been much of a writer myself, but yeah, that was sort of for me. That was sort of like acknowledgement that like all this time I've done my apprenticeship and all these courses, I am sort of improving with that writing sort of skills. It was nice to see.
Nice. And you mentioned it a few times about, digital being on the website and, TikTok and things like that. Is your focus at Emerald is the digital side, or are you sort of looking at, magazines and things as well?
That is definitely something I want to get into.
Yeah.
As the sole marketer at Emerald, it is just a matter of digital is just I can where that's something that I'm have a good baseline with.
Yeah.
It's quite naturally skilled at that. It's just something that I'm able to push towards quicker. But I would 100% like to keep those offline ways of doing it also.
Nice. And moving on to, talk about mentors or people like that. I guess it's nice to have your mum and dad and, family business, but have you got any other mentors or colleagues within the business that, have really helped you out? I guess you each other are a good help for each other, but is there anyone else you'd like to sort of speak about that have really helped you in your roles?
Um, I think it'd be hard to say a name in particular. I mean, we're at Emerald. We have several colleagues who have been there for longer than us. I think there's 3 members of staff that are going to be on their 10th year this year. So I think everyone as a whole is very inspiring, and the sort of community that we've created within Emerald is inspiring in itself. Everyone knows the backstory. Everyone is sort of like a member of a family, really. So I think just as a collective, everyone from the office to even the guys out on site, yeah, have really sort of been a good mentor to both of us, I'd say.
Yeah. And do you think that's helped you settle into the industry in terms of, obviously knowing it from your mum and dad, but not knowing it, like you said, fully? Do you think that's actually helped you that, you've got a lot of people that, you like spending time with and, you want to go to work basically?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think because we are a family-run business, we have a lot of staff that we are either friends with already, or we've kind of known, and it just creates a really nice environment, and everybody gets on. Obviously, there's challenges like every business has, but it does create a very comfortable environment, and everyone has a very similar sort of interest in the business in itself, and us as a family. So it does have a nice harmony throughout.
Nice. And what advice would you give to someone? Firstly, I'll come to you, Shauna, about working in marketing, and then secondly to Lee about starting an apprenticeship within marketing. What sort of advice would you give someone that potentially comes up to you and says, like, I'm interested in doing this? What would you say?
So I think applicable to marketing and the double glazing industry as well is just try different things. Again, like kind of what I was saying earlier, there's no set routes, even though you feel like, for example, oh, I can't do TikTok because my business doesn't apply to TikTok, for example. I would say give everything a go. Try and do things different from obviously companies that are within the industry, because that's really what's going to set you apart, and what's going to become a talking point, and what customers are going to they're going to think twice about you. And it obviously the same relates to marketing, but just yeah, just putting yourself out there and just going against the grain, really.
Nice. Lee, and starting doing an apprenticeship within glazing. Recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, although it's not my apprenticeship is not strictly for double glazing industry, it is there are so many skills that you just pick up on so fast that you can immediately apply. Like I definitely would not have been able to do some of the campaigns that I have done, or been able to just understand really how to do certain things without this apprenticeship.
Nice. And lastly, what's next for Emerald Windows as a business, and for you both, Lee, both in the roles?
Yeah, so There's a lot to come from us. I mean, we've obviously been around for 20 years, and we hope to be around for another 20 more. I mean, we are always trying to do sort of new things. I mean, one thing at the moment that's quite major is we're completely renovating our showroom. So we're, like I said, we're based in Swindon, and we're kind of within like a residential area. So the office that we're in, that's become our showroom,
Yeah.
is one that we've had since the beginning. And we're really clinging on to it because it's really personable. I mean, a lot of companies, as you'd expect, are within like an industrial estate, which
Yeah.
is obviously fine, but it's just, I think it kind of links back to us as a family business, that it's really cozy almost. People kind of come in and they feel quite welcome, and so we're adding to that. So we've extended it. We've got a massive composite door gallery, which is really good. And yeah, so there's currently more renovations just to make it super modern. And yeah, so that, I'd say that's probably the big one for this year, getting that done.
Nice. Perfect. Well, thank you for your answers. We're going to move on to our quick fire question round now, which is, we ask you quick fire questions, and yeah, it's just the first thing that comes to your head. So I'll start off with, anyone can answer, or both you can answer. First thing is, what's your favorite thing to do outside of work?
Read, which sounds really boring.
Probably, like most people my age, play games.
Nice. What's your go-to meal if you had to choose any sort of cuisine or meal in general? What's your go-to meal?
Roast dinner made by our mum.
Bubble and,
Nice.
bubble and squeak after
Nice.
Christmas.
I haven't heard bubble and squeak in ages. What's your go-to? Speaking on the keeping on the food theme, what's your go-to work snack to keep you going in the day?
Oh, we're quite health conscious at the moment. So maybe something proteiny or some fruit. Very
No.
boring.
Yeah, we usually have a mango every day. So
Nice. What's your most used emoji when talking about work? I mean, you might not be able to tell it if it's an eye rolling emoji, but what's your go-to emoji?
probably the head exploding emoji.
uh, so when do you feel most in the zone? Are you both sort of morning people, like if you say your protein stuff, and when do you feel most in the zone?
Mine is probably first thing in the morning. Maybe not for you.
No, probably literally the first thing in the morning, about 1 a.m.
Yeah. That's really early in the morning to be in the zone. Nice. And what do you see yourself both doing, both within the business and personally in the next 5 years? Or
That's a good
what do
one.
you hope to have achieved with the business?
I think just continuing to see it expand, streamlining processes, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Streamlining processes would be fantastic, and I'd love to see a lot of growth on our social media pages and sort of like basic things like inquiries on the website and things like that.
Nice, perfect. Well, as our final bit of the podcast, we like to let our guests give a shout out. It can be to friends, family, people within the industry, people out the industry. So yeah, whoever wants to go first, fire away.
So obviously, it won't come as a surprise that definitely like to mention my mum Mandy, my dad Martin, who are our parents. Obviously, they've created Emerald from scratch together through a lot of challenging times, and it's just a testament to their hard work how it's turned out. And with that, obviously, the whole team at Emerald, everyone is fab and has a really unique contribution. So yeah, I would have to mention everyone there as well.
Perfect. Lee, is there anyone else you wanna shout out?
Ooh. Yeah, just shout out to the team in general, really. I mean, I'm really lucky to be in the position I'm in, and I wouldn't be in it without all of them.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for both of you for joining us today. Yeah, it was really interesting to hear, about your roles within the industry, as someone that both of you are relatively at the start of your careers within Glazing, and what's to come for the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Perfect. Well, that's it for today. So you can find this episode and all others on our YouTube channel at People in Glazing Society, on our website www.peopleinglazing.co.uk, and also available to download on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for Shauna and Lee for joining us, and see you again soon.